You keep us connected.
How come everywhere I go, I'm so low? Am I at my best on our company? Oh my God.
So good. So good.
Oh,
Oh, man.
let's just sing. No, we won't. No, we won't. Oh, I'm going to be singing the rest of the day.
Perhaps I could use this as an excuse to go to those far-off planets with little polka-dotted people if necessary, and be able to talk about love, war, nature, God, sex, all those things that go to make up the excitement of the human condition.
I'm Captain James Kirk. Mr. Spock.
Your move, Captain.
Jim Kirk of the Enterprise.
What's going on?
I'm James Kirk. These people are my friends and my shipmates. Leave my crew alone.
Out of the question.
How about that?
James Kirk.
It fits like a glove, Captain.
Oh, the bonehead ideas.
Gentlemen, I'm Captain James Kirk. Get out of my chair. Get out of it now.
My greetings and felicitations, Captain. So good of you and your officers to drop in. Absolutely smashing.
Joel on True, friends, and welcome to Humanist Trek. It's a Star Trek podcast about the humanism in Star Trek. I'm Sarah Ray.
And I'm Allie Ashmead.
And hey, Allie.
Hey. What?
Happy birthday. Happy birthday, baby. Oh, it's our first birthday. Woo!
Now we got to do the happy birthday to ya.
Yeah, see, that's so much better.
Happy birthday to ya. Happy birthday to ya.
Damn, get it, Allie?
We're 1 year old. How's it feel to be a newborn?
Right? Well, we're still shitting our pants and throwing up all over the place a little bit, but you know.
We're vomiting words.
But it's been a really good year.
It has been. It's been fun.
Yeah, I'm super proud of the thing that we've created.
It's been really good therapy for me because, first of all, I love Star Trek. And now I've got a reason to actually watch it every single week and actually like pay attention to every little thing that happens. But also, I love talking about it, and I love like bouncing things off of you, and we have so much fun.
Yes.
We get to be silly and talk about the thing that we love.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. We're just a couple of geeks talking about the thing we love, and that's what makes it great, for sure. Yeah. We try not to take ourselves too seriously.
Yeah, and hope you don't either.
I was going to tell you a quick update. Nothing at all related to an anniversary, but a birthday. So my daughter just turned 8, right? Oh, and boy, we are stupid. I came up with the great idea. Hey, pick your 4 favorite friends or whatever, 4 or 5 friends, and we'll have a party. And then if they want to spend the night, that would be great. We'll have a big old slumber party, right? 8 is kind of the sleepover age, I think. Like the summer camp that I volunteered with, right? 8 was the low end cutoff because, under that age, you may not be ready for sleep away from home. And and we only lost 1 kid in the night. So I think we did pretty good. No, these kids are all just so sweet. And one of them was like ready to dip at 1 o'clock in the morning. And I was like, okay, yeah. Cool. You have agency in this situation, right? And if you're ready to dip, I will call your mom and wake her up. Not a problem. Yeah. Some of them who were not ready and knew they were not ready for sleepovers yet, and so they went home and then came back in the morning and we made pancakes for everybody and had fruit and pancakes and bacon and had a big breakfast, and it was great. It was a really great time. But now I'm like, Jesus, I'm ready to go to bed.
Yeah.
It was like midnight. I was sitting outside the room where these girls would just not stop talking. I'm like, go to sleep.
I mean, that's just kids.
Right? There was one point that I was really tempted to like holler through the door, Alexa, play Go the Fuck to Sleep by Samuel L. Jackson.
Don't do that.
I think my son has heard that because he had a really hard time sleeping as a kid. Anyway, and then I have an update for you on the watch that was lost.
Oh, yeah.
Right? So he lost this watch, and then Turns out it got turned in and it smelled like weed. So we think somebody made off with it and then realized it was locked and couldn't use it or do whatever.
Battery ran down or something. Or...
Yeah, whatever. It was found then in kind of the grassy area out by where they do lunch and recess, right? And so they said one of the janitors found it. So he got his watch back. And then the very next day, I shit you not, I cannot make this up, he loses his watch again.
Oh my God, seriously? Does he just not want the watch?
I don't know.
Is it still lost?
No, we found it again. So he was back and forth to his friends that live in the neighborhood. And so we knew it had to be either at their house or our house. And the last ping on it was at our house. So I'm like, it's got to be here somewhere. And it showed like out in the front yard. So we were walking around the street at night trying to make the thing make noise and find that. You might. You'll never guess where this watch was.
Let me see. So, in the garage. No, you said it was in the yard.
The signal showed that it was in the yard. This watch,
it was in the garage.
It was in his shorts pocket the whole fucking time. Went through the laundry and everything.
Oh, geez.
It still works. So
he does not want this watch. You know what you need to do? You're gonna need to surgically implant it under his skin.
Right. I'm all for chipping my kids.
Yeah.
Is that bad?
Freaking chip it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't have a solution.
I mean, a big part of this is just ADHD brain. You know, he misplaces shit and forgets about it, and because his brain is all over the place. So anyway, we found the watch. All is resolved. We have it back now. Birthday party was a great success. All the girls had a great time, and we're celebrating 1 year of Humanist Trek.
Yay!
Hey, thanks to everybody who listens every week, especially if you share out the episodes and tell people about us. We really do appreciate that because we're really trying to grow the listenership here. And thank you to all of you who are patrons and support the show financially. That makes a big, big difference in my life. And to those who sent in your messages, your subspace messages for us, we're going to play those throughout the episode. And we really appreciate you doing that.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then it's time to take over our other bodies and get into Star Trek, the original series, Season 2, Episode 20, Return to Tomorrow.
Sir, contact with an object. It's moving toward us. No visual contact yet.
Deflectors, full intensity.
Mr. Sulu, yes, Captain. Anything on your scanners?
It's coming at light speed.
Collision course. Visual contact.
Anything, over?
All wavelengths dominated by ionization effects, sir.
All engines full stop.
The Enterprise is hundreds of light years beyond where any Earth ship has gone before, and they're picking up a reading emanating from a star system dead ahead. But as usual, it's not like anything they've ever seen before. It's not a signal, Uhura says, yet it's fucking up all of her instruments.
I'm just happy to see that Sulu is back.
Sulu's back! Kirk and Spock banter a little bit about this. Somehow their distress signal relays were activated. They were given a direction to follow, but they can't figure out what's causing it. Sulu's got a planet dead ahead on the view screen. Class M, Earth-like, but Sarah has questions about this because Spock says with two exceptions. One, this planet is much older than Earth, and two, the important one, about 500,000 years ago, its atmosphere was totally ripped away by some sort of cataclysm. How can it be Class M if it has no atmosphere?
Exactly. It's not able to sustain life.
I have questions, and so does Kirk, and a booming voice comes across the bridge. All of your questions will be answered in time, Captain Kirk.
And here we fucking go again with some disembodied voice. Did you know?
I did know. I prepared.
Okay.
I prepared this as a pop quiz for you, but I think we both know.
I know. I already know.
For the listeners, who did the voice of Sargon?
James Doohan.
Jimmy Doohan is just, he's
like amazing
everywhere. Yeah.
I know. And
he's so good.
So the first time I watched it through, I didn't realize. And then the second time I watched it knowing that it was him. And I'm like, oh my God, it is him.
Uh-huh.
He's amazing.
Listening, knowing that it is him, I caught certain word endings would slip back into Scottish. And that was the tell for me.
Right. And it makes me wonder too, though, Like the other episodes that we've watched where they've got the voice from above or whatever. Could it have been him?
Yeah.
Too? When that particular actor didn't have a face, I wonder if it was him.
Sargon says, I am Sargon. It is the energy of my thoughts which has touched your instruments and directed you here. Now, with this closer distance, I can speak to you at last. Or a demand? Please assume a standard orbit about our planet, Captain. Kirk says, the choice is yours. Dead. There's no possibility of life as words we understand life. Sargon says, and I am as dead as my planet. Does that frighten you, James Kirk? For if it does, if you let what is left of me perish,
I didn't understand what he meant by that.
What?
Do you?
All not until later must perish too.
But I don't. Maybe I'm gonna need you to explain it.
Sargon gave them the choice. Why didn't they just hit the pedal and get the fuck out of there?
And that's probably because of their past history with all of these types of beings, godlike voices in the sky type. I'm surprised they didn't either.
I'd be warped out of there. Captain's log, Kirk has decided to risk continuing contact with this being, which is apparently alive despite there being no signs of life on this planet, because their primary mission is to seek out new life.
And this world has been dead for at least 500,000 years, although this voice must come from some kind of energy, an energy of pure thought.
Spock's got a new reading on his sensors now, and Sargon says,
Oh my.
Your probes have touched me, Mr. Spock. They write these jokes themselves. Thanks, 1960s Star Trek writers. Spock's like, oh yeah, you like it like that, do you? He is only reading energy patterns, still nothing that they know is of life. And Sargon's voice booms across the bridge again. Somehow, he's set their transporters to his location so they can beam down. And he says, this is the first red flag for me. The first red flag is, it's another
rescue us from oblivion.
Powerful creature. Let's get the fuck out of here. This, please come to us, rescue us from oblivion, is the second. Back to Imperial. Spock says the energy reads from beneath at least 100 miles of solid rock.
And Sargon, he was so powerful. He's like, I will make it possible for your transporter
right about that time, Spock
to
suddenly registers an underground chamber with oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere. So Kirk plans to take down McCoy and leave Spock in charge of the Enterprise. Although Spock would really like a chance to study this, whatever this is. But as Kirk says the plan out loud, the whole bridge goes dark. All the lighting, all the consoles. And Kirk's like, oh, well, on the other hand, perhaps Sargon would like you to come with us. And just as suddenly everything comes back on.
I'm like, if you're so powerful, then why not just take them?
Yeah, can't you just yoink them down to the planet?
Yeah.
What was that yoinking alien a couple episodes ago?
Yeah, the providers. They were yoinking.
Yeah, that's it. He leaves Sulu with the con. Now, Scotty's next in line, right? Like, it's Kirk, Spock, Scotty.
Yeah. Is it Kirk, Spock, McCoy? No, McCoy could not. I would not want him in control of my ship. So yeah, it's Kirk, Spock, Scotty.
So he gives the con to Sulu.
Why? I don't know.
We know that it can't be Scotty because he's in the transporter room in the next scene. But that's something I've been asking all along too. Other than needing, like, we want this main cast character to have more to do, why the fuck would the chief engineer also be the regular transporter operator guy?
Yep.
Wouldn't he have people to do that?
And it has nothing to do with the engines.
Right. Right.
I don't know.
It's an engineering system, but like, yeah. Where's Kyle when you need him? In the transporter room, McCoy's all bitchy because they didn't have a meeting in the conference room first. And Kirk's like, well, you know as much as we do, which is basically nothing. There you go. Meeting adjourned. Scotty doesn't trust these coordinates being input by some alien entity. He says, you could materialize inside solid rock. And this has McCoy on edge. McCoy, who famously dislikes the transporter.
The transporter, anyway.
Well, when the writers remember, of course. Spock says it's unlikely, as these coordinates match the area of that chamber with atmosphere. Kirk says, I have a feeling that they or it could destroy us just standing here if they wanted to.
Cue music. Cue the
string music fires up. Yeah.
Right. Because Dr. Mulhall comes in and she repeats, they or it.
Kirk and McCoy turn around. The string music swells, and we're greeted by this week's Star Trek sex object, Dr. Catherine Pulaski.
Yay!
This is Diana Muldaur, known to TNG fans as the doctor who didn't work out.
Yeah. She was kind of like always button heads with Picard anyway.
I can't wait to get to TNG.
I know it's going to be fun.
Yeah.
Because then we'll just throw back to all the actors and stuff that were episodes that are kind of a redo of TOS episodes.
Anyway, Pulaski is with astrobiology, and she says she was ordered to report here for landing party duty, though she doesn't remember who gave her the order. And Kirk's pretty suspicious, but she insists that she received orders from somewhere. And Spock remarks, probably like the orders you received to take me with you, Jim.
Oh, it's always really strange that Kirk never knows who's on his ship. Like,
indeed.
So he's never seen her before, doesn't know who she is. She's a doctor of some kind. I would imagine he would know something, but, we got to have some way to introduce new characters anyway.
So McCoy's like, all right, hold on a minute, Toots. Let's get back to this whole materializing in solid rock thing. Not quite done talking about that problem. Like an idiot, he asks just exactly how much rock their molecules would have to pass through. And Spock is right there with the maths. 112.37 miles. And McCoy says, miles? Are you joking? I thought we used metric in the future.
Kirk's like, nope, let's go. Let's do it. So then Sargon from above, he's like, and again, his speech is like weird.
Please stand by. Yeah. I'm going to operate your controls.
One last option to like stay behind. And he's like, no, if I'd be useful, as long as you're going down there, I might as well take a medical look at whatever this is. So they get on the pads along with two red shirts, and Scotty's ready to beam them. And then suddenly the transporter activates and the crew is gone, but then they leave the two red shirts on the pad.
So the four of them materialize in this chamber on the planet. And right away, Spock notes the absence of the guards. And Kirk answers a phone call from Scotty, although their communicators shouldn't work through this much rock either.
True.
So,
maybe that's something, maybe Sargon did that?
Yeah, perhaps that has also been arranged. The guards are fine, they're just not where we thought they'd be, and Scotty's not happy about any of this. So they hang up the phone, and Pulaski reports that the oxygen is slightly higher than they're used to, but nothing out of the ordinary. Spock tricorders the room and determines that this vault is 500,000 years old, about the same time the planet's surface was destroyed. The walls are made of an unknown alloy or substance, much stronger and harder than anything I've measured before. And Kirk looks down at his softie in his hand and sighs.
Dr. Pulaski also chimes in that all the readings are off the scale, and McCoy's like, the air must be recirculated somehow. But Kirk's like, well, is that for us or does it need fresh air?
Then, like the stretch room in the Haunted Mansion,
welcome, foolish mortals.
A wall panel slides open and goes into what looks like this looked to me like the Cage cave playset.
Mm-hmm.
The walls are all like kind of rocky, but smooth and shimmery. And in the middle of this room, there's an old 1970s retro bean-shaped table with a kind of metal stand rising out of it. And held in the arms of the stand is like a large yellow orb with flashing lights.
And the glowing ball says, of course, Spock wants to take some readings, so he's like pulling out his tricorder, and Sargon gives his permission, but tells him,
your reading will show energy.
I was like singing,
sealed in this receptacle is the essence of my mind.
Sealed in this receptacle is the essence of my mind.
Spock says, pure energy, no form, and Kirk says, impossible. Jim, this isn't the first non-corporeal energy being you've met this season.
I know. Why are you shocked?
Come on.
But Sargon says,
a body much
Kirk notices,
yours,
okay, you called us your children before. It's possible that they are descendants because 6,000 centuries ago, they were colonizers.
Mm-hmm.
And they were going around, and I don't really like this term, but they said that we were going around spreading our seed.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just as you are currently now
and he even
leaving your own seed on distant planets,
as possible travelers of theirs.
As well.
Right. Again, with this biblical stuff.
Well, it's because somebody found a book and, it built our culture.
Sargon has brought them on the Maury show. And he's like, we may need to get a DNA test because I might be your great-great-great-grandpappy. So he makes this reference about perhaps Adam and Eve were two of our travelers. And Pulaski's like, nuh-uh. According to our science, life on Earth evolved independently. Spock thinks this revelation might also explain some Vulcan prehistory as well. So Sargon's like, yeah, well, we can't look at old picture albums because we basically lost all of our records during the cataclysm, which we loosened upon ourselves. So a war. But Sargon explains, and I thought in a way, was very Q-like. He explains how impossible it would be for humans to comprehend the struggle for control of an immense power that they couldn't comprehend either. Very Q vibes.
Mm-hmm. But I like what Kirk says here, where he says, then perhaps your intelligence wasn't so great. We faced similar crises on Earth in our early nuclear age, and we found the wisdom not to destroy ourselves. And I'm with him on this one.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, they were power hungry and destroyed themselves, and they ended up a talking ball. And so, I mean, just because you're powerful, doesn't mean you are always wise.
So Kirk's doing that thing where your friend is telling a story about something traumatic that's just happened, and you want to tell them about something similar that happened to you, that something you went through, to demonstrate that you understand them in this moment, but you also don't want to center the moment around you and your story.
Mm-hmm.
That's what Kirk's doing here.
Yeah.
Sargon's like, oh, you stupid young boy. We survived our primitive nuclear era too. Like, nothing special about you guys, and that was so long ago for us. But there comes to all races an ultimate crisis which you have yet to face. Kirk's like, one day our minds became so powerful we dared think of ourselves as gods. Kirk's body tenses up. He staggers backwards a bit. Then this high-pitched noise blasts through the room. He flips his head back. This was some interesting acting here.
Yeah, basically, he's been snatched. He's been body snatched.
McCoy goes to react, but Spock tells him to wait a moment. And then Kirk's still in this weird position as his mouth starts moving. And Sargon's voice comes out.
McCoy's like, what the fuck? Where's Kirk? Kirk talks, and he's like... And McCoy takes out his phaser. He's like, nah. He's
unharmed. I've just taken his body to demonstrate.
He tells him to get back in your ball. Get back in your ball.
And Spock's like, and if he doesn't, you going to shoot a hole through Jim's body? Sarkirk is like,
Oh, yeah. Lungs filled with air again, to see again, heart pumping blood. This is good shit
he
right
tells
here.
McCoy he's
what
impressed
has it been,
with the
half a
condition
million
that
years?
they've kept Kirk's body in,
Finally.
as Sargon kind of stiff walks around the room in Kirk's body.
He assures everyone that Kirk is unharmed, although his mind generates insufficient energy for him to speak from there. And McCoy's taking the readings, and they're like, well, okay, Kirk's heart action is doubled. His temperature is 104 degrees. And Dr. Pulaski is like, he will die if he doesn't leave his body soon. And so Spock is like asking Sargon, what do you want from us? Sarkirk says, in the next room, there are other receptacles, and there's 2 of us that have survived. So he tells the doctor and Mr. Spock that, hey, I'm gonna need your bodies too. We must have them so that we can all live again.
Subspace message from Starfleet. Switching to speaker.
Let's take a moment out of the show here to celebrate with some of our listeners. This comes to us from one of our newer patrons, Lieutenant Commander Anders Hove.
Dear Sarah, Allie, and Becca, it's Anders here, and it's a pleasure to congratulate you on your Star Trek anniversary. I've been enjoying watching them just before getting your podcast. If I have to pick one thing to praise, I'd say it's the rapport and the humor that you have, and I'm calling that one thing. But I also enjoy hearing your takes and the little things that you notice about every episode. Anyway, I wanted to find the perfect Star Trek quote, but the best one I could think of was Data's calculation that due to exponentially increasing temporal incursions, at this rate, the sector will be completely filled with enterprises in 3 days. Well, okay, it's going to take Humanist Trek just a little bit longer at a linear rate, but it's the journey that counts.
Oh, I love that. Oh my goodness. I feel like I'm going to tear up here. That's awesome.
It's so great
Thank
to hear
you.
that people enjoy the show and you're getting something out of it. Because honestly, again, it's really just a couple of friends nerding out over their shit. Like, we could do this and not record it.
Right. We totally could.
We would be doing this anyway, but
Yes.
we're glad that you're listening along while we do it.
That makes me feel good. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Mr. Hove. Thank you.
And I think I was reflecting on that quote about the time-space continuum, and that was a lot of technobabble for my weed brain right now. So what I immediately thought was the exponentially replicating enterprises. I remember this episode. It is the exponentially replicating podcasts. There's just so many fucking podcasts out in the universe. And that you chose ours to listen to really means a lot to us.
Yeah, thank you so much.
After the break, they enter into the next room, and sure enough, there's like one of those IKEA cube cubby things built into the face of the rock in the cave.
It's like a closet organizer or some shit.
Yeah. And inside each cubby is another orb, but only 2 of them are lit up. The rest are dead. Here we learn that the other survivors are Hinnock and Talesa, and Sarkirk is pretty happy to see she survived. When the devastation of the planet came, they selected only the best minds to survive inside these orbs until hopefully their seeds would take root. Here we go again. And their children would build ships as they had, and eventually they would come out into space and find us.
It's funny how they paint the colonizing as something positive and wonderful, as such as a seed taking root and growing.
Yeah, you're just blowing a dandelion. That's all.
Yeah. No, you're... Yeah.
Not to speak at all of where the dandelion seeds might land and what other seeds might have already been there.
Yeah. Dandelions don't give a shit.
Nope.
Dandelions gonna grow.
Talesa is Sargon's wife, and Hinnock is from the other side in their conflict. So they decided to perpetuate both sides. We'll take 5 from your team and 5 from our team.
Great. So we can continue the war,
If only they'd had some, fantastic computer to connect themselves to launch imaginary electronic attacks at each other, and they're playing Battleship. Sarkirk also explains that he was stored differently in an orb lamp on that table from the 70s, while the others were stacked in an IKEA shelving unit because it was his job to reach out with his mind, probing, waiting, trying to find their children. If you, like Pulaski and me, I think, assumed that they intended to steal these bodies forever, you'd be wrong, like me. Turns out they just need to borrow him for a short time, while we build some humanoid robots to transfer our consciousnesses into. And the camera cuts over to Harry Mudd standing in the doorway, and he's like, humanoid robots, you say? And there's like an army of Stella bots behind him, all yelling, Harcourt Benton Mudd!
I'm sure. Well, let me tell you.
McCoy points out that they're currently overclocking the CPU on Kirk's body. But Sargon promises they'll release the bodies before they reach that limit. But they've got to have some hands and fingers if they're going to build robots.
Dr. Pulaski says, we've got engineers. Why can't we build the robots for you? And once again, they love to slap the humans down and tell them how unworthy and unable they are as far as compared to them. They're like, and the Kirk is fucking sweating
and skills are
pouring
far
sweat at
beyond
this
our abilities.
So they take him back to Sargon's sphere, and I'm assuming that they've got to be next to his sphere,
right,
for him to jump back into his ball.
Mm-hmm. So Kirk slumps to the ground, but he's back in his body, and his bio readings are starting to normalize. And he remembers everything that happened. Says he was floating in time and space. So that must be what it's like to be the disembodied brains in a orb, I guess.
Fucked by a god? Is that what that feels like? You're floating in space and time? Yikes. I don't know.
But something he noticed as he and Sargon passed each other during this mind swap. For a moment, they became one, and so Kirk understands everything now, and he's not afraid of these beings or this procedure that they want to do.
McCoy's like, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard you say. Because the alien practically hijacked your body and then torques you into a bottle. And Pulaski agrees with Dr. McCoy that he's probably suffering from some form of false euphoria.
I saw someone on social media one time say that Diana Mulder basically played the same character here as she plays later as Pulaski in The Next Generation. And the longer this episode goes on, the more I see it.
She's very stoic
and
matter of fact. And I can see that.
Yeah. Kirk starts to speak to Sargon, but Sargon's already read his mind and tells him it's okay to go back to the Enterprise. Take some time to think about this, because while it may not have seemed like it up to this point, Sargon's like,
after they snatched him the first time without consent.
Exactly.
We really do have a thing for consent here.
I'm about to do something.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
There was no consent.
Take a deep breath.
Oh my.
But yeah, there was no consent.
So the deal is, anyone that's going to be involved in this thing has to come to it willingly. They're not going to force anybody to participate. And McCoy's like, what if we choose not to participate at all? Fast cut to Scotty in the briefing room. You're gonna what?
Well, then you're free to go on your way.
Well, first of all, I love that. And I think you mentioned this in a couple of other episodes that lately, maybe it's just in season 2, they're doing this whole democratic thing in the briefing room. Instead of Kirk just going off and doing whatever the fuck he wants, he's asking the opinions and feedback from his senior officers. So.
Yeah. And Scotty asks, are they all right in the head, Doctor? And McCoy says, no comment. I thought this whole scene was fun.
I think it was really good.
Kirk's trying to talk everyone else into this plan, and McCoy's being snarky. Classic McCoy. Kirk has a fun jumble trying to explain that Scotty needs to consent also because he would be helping with the engineering stuff. So even though you're not going to get your brain taken over, we still need you to help with the robots and stuff. And he's like, well, not them, us. You'll be helping us, but not us because they'll be inside our heads. Am I making any sense here? It was just a fun, bit of dialogue. So Kirk puts each of them on the spot. Like, are you ready? Are you going to do this? Pulaski's actually kind of excited about the idea of being brain swapped with Talisa, just on the scientific experiment merit alone.
And then he also promises or kind of just just think of what kind of technological advances we can get from them. And he tells Scotty we could vessels with engines the size of walnuts. Scotty's like, you're joking.
So that leaves McCoy as the lone holdout, and he's got one simple question. Why? Why is it worth this risk? And, he's like, don't give me medical and engineering advancements. Why risk this danger? And don't think that there's no danger in this either.
He's really harping on all the things that they could bring them. And he gives this speech, I guess, kind of like a moving speech of trying to, again, just bring them over to his side. But he's still no pressure, still your choice. And we won't do it if one of you doesn't want to.
He says, they used to say if man could fly, he'd have wings. But he did fly. He discovered he had to. Do you wish that the first Apollo mission hadn't reached the moon? Or that we hadn't gone to Mars and then to the nearest star? That's like saying you wish that you still operated with scalpels and sewed your patients up with catgut like your great-great-great-grandfather used to. I'm in command. I could order this, but I'm not, because Dr. McCoy is right in pointing out the enormous danger potential in any contact with life and intelligence as fantastically advanced as this. But I must point out that the possibilities, the potential for knowledge and advancement is equally great. Risk is our business. That's what the starship is all about. That's why we're aboard her. You may dissent without prejudice. Do I hear a negative vote? Big, long fucking hero speech.
Oh, yeah. And the silence basically was his go-ahead.
Yeah. So, engineer, stand by to beam aboard 3 receptacles.
3 balls! I feel like this speech was a little bit, a little bit manipulative in a way.
Yeah, for sure.
He'd made up his mind. Of course, he wants to convince everyone else to be on his side. But I don't know. I just thought it was manipulative and not at all like Kirk. Although none of this is like Kirk asking in the briefing room for anyone's opinion. So,
in sickbay, Kirk, Spock, and Pulaski are laid in biobeds, and next to each bed on a shelf is one of the orbs. McCoy's explaining to Chapel what the effects to watch for are, and that they'll have to watch over all of them very closely. Ready as they'll ever be, the high-pitched noise winds up again, and the spheres start shining brightly, and then dim again, while the little guinea pigs on the biobeds twitch. It looks kind of painful, and they open their eyes, and they've all been body swapped.
And Chapel's monitoring their vital signs, and the metabolic rate is doubling. And then Spock wakes up first, and he's got this grin. I mean, we know that it's not Spock anymore, and he's getting to play, like, expand his acting chops and expand the Spock role, but he's getting a chance to just smile and kind of chuckle, and he sees Nurse Chapel, and he's like,
Chapel's like, Spock, I've waited my whole life to hear you talk to me like that.
Years. Right?
So just like Sarkirk, Hen Spock, and Pulaski
I know, I love it,
are both really happy to be inside these bodies again. Sarkirk and Pulaski find each other and look each other over real good. And they're both pretty happy with the casting director.
Mm-hmm.
They embrace and kiss deeply while the string section plays. Spock leaps out of bed and trots over to McCoy, quite pleased with his own body, seeing how Vulcans are so superior to humans, and he says,
McCoy's like, Vulcans worship peace above all.
I'm surprised the Vulcans never Spock's conquered your race.
Oh, yeah, us too.
Yeah, wink, wink. But then Thalassa kind of just starts to get weak in the knees, and then they put her back in the bed.
Sarkirk goes down too. McCoy tells Spock he'd better get back in bed too. But again, the Vulcan body is accustomed to this higher metabolism, so thinks he can go on far longer. So McCoy employs Sargon to leave the bodies, and he agrees only for a short time until they can manufacture and administer a metabolic reduction injection. Of course, this is a medicine far beyond the Starfleet's level, so Spock offers to prepare the formula, and again has to convince them that he'll be fine for several hours due to this Vulcan physiology.
So they keep their word, and they vacate Sarkirk and Pulaski's bodies. I'm trying to keep that right. And Spock decides that Chapel is going to assist him in the laboratory to create this concoction. And so they go out, and Kirk wakes up, and McCoy tells him, dude, that was close. You barely got out alive. Unless this formula works, we can't risk it again.
In the pharmacy, the whole evil plot unravels before us.
I loved evil Spock. I just thought that was cool. It was really hot, too. But yeah.
Uh-huh. Hen Spock is loading up little tubes of colored liquid into hypo sprays and providing them to Chapel, who will be administering one injection, 10 cc's an hour. So he loads up the hypo and hands it to her. This hypo you will code mark for Thalesa. He hands her another, and this one you will code mark for me. And he loads up a third hypo. This time the color of the liquid is clearly different from the others, and he says, this one you will administer to Captain Kirk while Sargon is in his body. But she's on to him. Like, calls him right out. That formula is not the same. That one's orange and these are red. And he responds, no, that's correct.
And he didn't even hide it.
Nope. He says, and she's kind of taken aback. And she's like, but the captain will die without
so nobody else will notice. Formula.
So then he basically touches her forehead and does some kind of Vulcan finger magic to where it's, and we know they're a little telepathic.
Uh-huh.
But whatever he does, he kind of scrambles her thoughts a little bit and kind of makes her forget what he just told her. And so she's like, I was about to say something, but I forgot what it was. And he's like, yes, well, you were about to say that you wanted to watch me prepare the formula and fill the hypos. She's like, yeah, that was it. And he's like, very good. And then he goes and tells her again his evil plan.
Yeah.
And because so he's going to have to finger bang her head again.
Yes, exactly.
So he's like, yeah, very good.
You see, Sargon will not permit
and then
me
I'm
to keep his
assuming
body.
finger banged
It is therefore necessary for you to kill your captain so that Sargon will die with him.
Attention all crew of the USS Humanist Trek. As we're celebrating our 1-year anniversary, we'd like to take a moment just to, again, encourage you to join us over at Patreon. Becoming a supporter of the show really helps us a great deal, and you get some fun perks out of the deal, too. So we've done things like our episode of South Park that is a spoof on an episode of Star Trek. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
we need to find some more of those and do some more of those. I'll Google a Star Trek parody list or something.
Yeah.
But the newest thing that we've just started doing is personal logs. And personal logs are just shorts. It might be some cutting room floor stuff, because I do cut a lot of things out for time. And, I mean...
it's a good thing. Oh, my God.
They still go an hour and a half. So it's hard to find things to cut when they still come out at an hour and a half and the goal is an hour. But we have some fun conversations that I really genuinely hate to cut. And one of them recently was your story about losing your phone at the Eiffel Tower. And so that got cut out of the main show, but you can become a patron to hear the end of that story about how Allie got her phone back. And then the other one we posted recently was our reactions to Strange New Worlds Subspace Rhapsody episode. Kind of our first initial feelings.
It's so good.
It's so good. In fact, our recording today was determined by the end of Allie watching that episode again.
I was like, wait, they're at the grand finale. I'll be there in a second.
The Starship Enterprise.
Oh my goodness.
Oh God. So we're gonna do more things like that for patrons. Some behind the scenes stuff, some bloopers. There are plenty of times that we are just high as a mountain and stumble the fuck all over ourselves, and that's pretty funny sometimes.
Or like when you forget to hit record and we have to do all that shit again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Although, yeah.
So yes, that's the kind of stuff that you can get over at patreon.com/Humanist Trek. Give us some support. As little as $3 a month gets you on our crew roster, and you can join us on the journey on the USS Humanist Trek. Boldly going where many podcasts have gone before.
But not quite like this.
Exactly. Back from commercial, McCoy's voicing a medical log. The aliens have body swapped again, and basically everything is going as planned so far. but he's just got this weird feeling in his gut. Go with your gut, Bones.
Yeah.
Trust that feeling, man. Sarkirk is standing next to Pulaski, playing with some salt shakers and circuit boards and stuff, when she brushes her hand against his, and they reminisce about a time long ago when they sat beside a silver lake smelling the flowers of their planet, and they held hands like this. And he brings her hand up to his mouth to kiss it when Spock comes into the room, and Sarkirk's like,
I'm getting a boner.
Best not to remember so well.
Spock reminds them that soon they'll have their own hands. In 2 days, I guess, is how long it takes to create an android.
Interestingly, I think they wrote this to specifically kind of foreshadow or nod, because Spock says, speaking specifically to her and
you'll
not
have your
Sarkirk.
own hands in 2 days to lace up.
Shit.
Because
He
was planning to do some shit. So yeah, there's some foreshadowing there.
Spock's like, yeah, that's really good. And I did not pick up on that.
I ain't seen nothing about you,
Spock's
Star
like,
Guy.
Mechanically efficient and quite human-looking bodies, but still robot
so
hands,
that
of course.
explains why he wants to
No
stay
feeling.
in Spock's body. He
Enjoy
doesn't
this
wanna give
taste
up
of life while you
this
can.
feeling. He can't fight this feeling anymore. Sarkirk says their minds have survived, so at least as androids, they can be mobile, move around the people who are living, teach them and help them not to make the same mistakes we did.
Suddenly, Sarkirk kind of physically wavers a little bit, and then the camera pans to Spock. You know, he's kind of leaning in the doorway with a smirk on his face.
Yeah.
He's with the whole smiling and laughing Spock. It's weird to me, but it's also kind of cool. Dr. Pulaski, she's like, and Sarkirk is kind of playing it off. His body is basically failing, but he's like,
what is it, darling?
Speaking of their next injection,
Don't worry, our next
Chapel is
injection
in
will
sick bay
renovate
preparing
me.
them,
So don't
and
worry.
she's struggling
Don't
to
worry about
remember
it.
something again. McCoy asks about the latest readings on the patient, and she says everything is excellent, well within normal, but you can tell that her brain is all foggy, like she's just somewhere else. And McCoy even notices this and asks if she's okay. She's like, I'm just trying to remember something. And McCoy suggests maybe it was about the patients. She was like, yeah, all right, that must be it. The patients. I'm so pleased that they're responding, doctor. This formula is working perfectly. This reminded me so much of that episode that has a South Park spoof that we did a patron special of, when their minds were wiped and they struggled to remember stuff, and it was like painful to remember. That's what this reminded me of.
Yep. Her brain was completely scrambled. And McCoy's like, you look tired. Maybe you want me to do it? You know, maybe administer the injection. And suddenly she's like, nope, no, I'm fine. Thanks for asking. And she leaves.
Back in the lab, Pulaski is looking at her reflection in what looks like a metal baking dish lid or something when Scotty arrives. She asks if he's prepared the Negaton hydrocoils for the drawing Sargon supplied. And he's skeptical. He's like, for all the good it'll do ya.
This thing that's hanging in the middle of the floor is I don't even know how to describe it. It's like little tiny circuit boards hanging on a string in different.
Yeah.
And there's some jelly apparently.
It looked to me like maybe like the clear acrylic jewelry case display thing. So it's like a multi-shelf one of those things, and there's like red wooden legs attached to either side, kind of like one of those movable chalkboards from the old days.
Yep.
And then inside each of these there's a human torso outlined in a different color.
I didn't notice that it was in that shape though.
Yeah. And then inside that little body shape is where these little bits and bobs are hanging, the circuit boards and stuff. And Scotty is very suspicious that any of this will work in creating robot bodies. And he's like, you gotta have gears and pulleys and stuff, not jello or whatever this is.
Pulaski's like, And Scott's like, I tell you, lady, this thing won't work.
Well,
and then here we have Spock
that would
again
be highly
standing in the
efficient.
doorway, just laughing and smirking because he's like,
well, it's going to have twice the strength and agility of your body, and it'll
Scotty
last
just
1,000
doesn't say
years.
anything back to him.
That's
which
assuming if you
surprised
stop
me.
wasting
But
your
he just
time and
kinda
allow us to
walks out.
complete it.
Spock chuckles as Scotty leaves the room and says to Pulaski,
A 1,000-year prison, and when it wears out, we'll build another
again,
one.
he argues
Lock
that
ourselves into
Sargon
that
has
for
closed
another
his
1,000
mind
years.
to a better
and so
way.
on and so on and
And
so
that
on.
better way is, let's just take these bodies and be done with it. She resists, though. She says, and Spock steps behind her and
These bodies
takes her
aren't
by the
ours
hand and
to do
starts
with what we
reminiscing
please.
of how great it felt.
Don't you remember when you woke up in that body, you were all happy to breathe and see
He
and
had boobs
he's like,
and-
yeah.
He had tits
And she says,
and all those things again. And
pulls herself out of his arms.
Would you prefer
and
this?
after she storms off,
No, I'm
Spock
beginning
turns
to
back
hate
to
it.
face camera and grins an evil grin.
Kirk is in the briefing room by himself, and he's not doing well at all. And he calls sick bay, and McCoy answers, and Kirk is like,
McCoy's like, Jim, you sound like
Sargon
crap.
here.
I'll be right
I'm
there.
in your
but then here comes Delansky. And then Delansky's like, what's wrong? And he kind of, again, waves it off. Like, and then she's looking at what he's looking at
Nothing's wrong,
on the
it's just
monitor.
fatigue,
And he's
perhaps.
looking at Hinnock's formula because I think maybe he's already suspecting that maybe he gave him something.
Mm-hmm.
But he just wanted to make sure that there was no error in the formula, and it looks correct. So he's like, so he tries to play it off.
Don't
and
be
he says,
concerned. Kirk's got an excellent body.
She goes full team, keep the bodies here.
Oh, see,
She's
I
like,
feel better already.
Eventually,
And
this host
she
body
has
will
felt
become
the feelings
accustomed
of
to
the
us,
things
husband.
real
We
body
won't need
people can
injections
feel.
anymore.
And she's not prepared to give that up. So now she's kind of on Spock's side here.
yeah, it didn't take much convincing
Mm-mm.
from Hinspach, but he's like,
All she needed was Kirk to rail her a couple of times.
he's like, I'm keeping it.
I'm keeping this.
Now she's trying to convince him. And he's like,
Husband, feel the touch of my hand, husband.
and she's like,
no, beloved, we shouldn't be tormenting
he's like-
ourselves. What will
She's
the
like-
word beloved mean if we're
She
machines?
pulls into his chest
Well,
real
our
close
thoughts will
and
intertwine.
reaches her hand down
will
off
they?
camera and says,
Oh my.
can two minds do this?
"Can you come under this?"
I mean, but honestly, those like your sexual whatever is all about the brain. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
it is to be honest.
That must have been some kiss because as she comes up for air, Sarkirk's body just collapses onto the ground.
She killed him. No, I mean, so he's down. McCoy and Chapel come in just in time, and he's leaning over him and checking him out, and he comes up with a serious look on his face, and he says, "Jim is dead."
Oh my God! They've killed
Sarkirk?
you, bastards!
One thing before we go to break, if this were being made today, this would have to have been like a series finale cliffhanger, right? This very moment, this would be the last episode of Strange New Worlds.
And we'd have
Got
to wait
me on the
fucking
fucking
6
edge.
months, right?
Right. And we don't know. Well, with the writer's strike right now, we don't know how long we might be waiting.
That's true.
For
That's
season
true.
3 of Strange New Worlds. But yeah, like this would have been like the perfect place to drop it. Kirk's on the ground. We assume he's dead. This would have been a great cliffhanger.
Yeah.
I hate cliffhangers, by the way. Paramount, if you're listening, stop doing that shit to me.
Subspace message from Starfleet. Switching to speaker.
We have a couple more subspace messages from our listeners ready to go.
Cool.
The first one comes to us. Well, I should have known this. This is from our founding admiral, Russell.
Cool. Hey, Russell.
Humanist Trek founding Admiral Russell reporting in. Congratulations, Sarah, Allie, and Becca, on 1 full year of talking Trek and converting Wars fans. Just kidding. I'll never be a full convert. But I do like Trek now more than I did before. Keep up the good work, and here's a Ractigino for many more years.
Yes!
Yeah! Thanks, Russell. Oh, that was
That's
great.
Awesome.
So converting Star Wars fans, was that ever on the whiteboard of ideas that we were going to set out to do?
No. They're pretty diehard and not to convert, but
you're welcome here. Yeah.
This is the podcast you're looking for.
Ooh. I love it. Our next subspace message comes from another founding admiral, Sarah D.
Yay, Sarah.
Hey everyone, my name is Sarah Davis and I'm from the Bucks County, Pennsylvania area. And I just wanted to say congratulations, ladies, on making it to 1 year and doing this podcast. I have had so much fun and entertainment and listening to it. I cannot tell you enough on how much I have enjoyed this. Every week it's been my highlight to listen to what the next podcast is. So keep up the great work, ladies, and I can't wait to hear more.
Aw, thank you, Sarah.
Oh, thanks, Sarah.
That's wonderful.
Awesome.
Yeah. So again, whatever you get out of the show, right? Whether that's like the deep thinking humanist topics that we talk about, or when we get high and just have fun.
or the dirty minds that we have that come out out of left field.
Whatever the reason you listen, thanks. We're happy to have you on this journey.
Yeah.
McCoy records another medical log. He's not sure if he should log this one as 1 death or 2. When Kirk's body died, it was too far from the alien receptacle, so it's surely dead. And then what about Kirk's consciousness in that ball in sickbay? It's still alive, right? Behind this voiceover, McCoy, Chapel, and a new cute black nurse with lines.
Whoop, whoop, whoop. I know. They didn't give her a name, but I was always happy to see that.
Right?
Always happy to see that.
We see you. They're hooking up Kirk's body to life support, and McCoy says they'll be able to keep the body functions going for a few weeks, maybe a month. But also, what's the point? Because now what are we going to do with it? You've got this empty shell, this mindless shell.
So in the lab,
there's
this naked white dude with a bald head. He all greased up, so he is like glistening. Oh, he's all greased up with oil. Honestly, did you think the same thing? Did it look like Galt, the Galt from the High Thrall or whatever?
Oh, I didn't notice that. No,
I don't know. It looks like an actor we've seen.
It looks like a sex toy to me. It's a real doll, is what it is, and it's an ugly one. This when you turn around backwards, you know.
Yeah. So this plastic shiny thing is on the table. It's actually a person though, but he's completely shaved, bald head. Delansky and Spock is looking at it. So Delansky's like,
and why are you pretending to work on that thing? You know you never intended to leave Spock's body.
You know, and
this is yours. This is your new home.
Once she's transferred her hard drive over, then he'll add the tits and ass.
I'll add female features and texturing.
And he tests the hand movement, and the thing on the table's hand comes
mechanism
up,
to
and he's like,
appear to be a woman.
Hop in and give it a spin. She resists.
It's ready.
He tells her. She snarls back.
You know, Sargon would have required that you enter the mechanism
deep on
immediately.
Keep the body now.
Yeah, and that's
live in
exactly
that
what
thing.
Spock wanted, is to give her this thing that she knew she was going to want.
Yep.
And drive her the other way.
In sickbay, we see Kirk's biobed panel showing his stats. And then the camera pans down to Kirk and pulls back to reveal McCoy standing over him. As the door swooshes open and Pulaski comes in, she asks McCoy if he wants her to save Captain Kirk. And although she said that was impossible before, apparently these beings also have other powers that Sargon forbade them to use, because they might get too tempting.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating.
She says to him,
mm-hmm.
So McCoy's like, okay.
I kind of like this body,
to keep Spock's body, of course.
I'll keep it.
And she's like, well, whatever Hinnock's doing is his own thing, but I just want to live in peace as a woman.
So she lays out her plan. She and McCoy will be the only ones that know that Dr. Pulaski has not returned to her body. So she only needs McCoy's silence, but McCoy says, okay, but how do we explain that echo on your vocal track? Because every time one of these people speak through the other character, it's this echo effect.
Yep. And also, she's asking McCoy to trade a body that isn't even his. So he can't make that decision for the doctor whose body it actually is. And she's like,
what do you care? You don't even know
right?
her.
Like, you people didn't even know her name before this episode of Star Trek, the original series.
I won't peddle flesh.
You didn't even know she was on your ship.
Not a sex trafficker, not a human trafficker. That's what he should have said.
Pulaski's suddenly got a bit of a god complex. McCoy says he can't go along with this. He's a doctor, damn it. And she's like,
you don't like
a doctor?
Nope, I don't either.
Compared to us,
she's
you're a
like,
prancing savage medicine man.
Says she could destroy him with
you
a single thought, and to demonstrate
worshiping
this,
us,
McCoy is suddenly surrounded by
instead.
some kind of flame transparency effect.
This must be one of the powers that she wasn't supposed to use.
Uh-huh.
But I guess, when you have something so powerful, how are you going to get them to behave? You can only hope that they're good and just and fair, but then the minute they don't get something, and they're like, hey, wait a minute, I can make you do that. I forgot.
The flame transparency thing comes on. Kirk's writhing in pain. That lasts for a few beats, but she finally yells, and the flames disappear, and the pain stops. And she says,
stop. Sargon was right.
So she's really on the fence now.
Within a living body are too great.
Do we keep these bodies, or is that a bad idea?
Right. Good thing she has some guilt in her. Because suddenly we hear Sargon's voice again, and he's like, so she's,
I am pleased, my beloved.
And so it turns out Sargon is also hiding some of his little secret nuggets
I thought you
of power.
Were destroyed.
And he's like, and then she's like, yeah, and I guess they communicated some kind of plan, and she's like,
okay, yes, I see. I understand, and just as we would have placed
Sargon
our consciousness
is now
within
the
robots,
computer.
Yeah.
Sargon has placed his into
Pulaski
a vessel.
says. So they're hatching up a plan.
As McCoy walks out,
Sargon has
the
a
door
plan, and we've got
slams
much
shut
work
and
to do.
locks behind him, and then the ship starts rocking. He makes it over to his desk, and just as he gets on the phone with the operator, Chapel walks through the shot while staring weirdly. Something's going on with Chapel now.
Mm-hmm.
McCoy's like, Chapel, what the hell's going on here? And he walks back into the sickbay ward, and a romanticized version of the theme from Star Trek starts playing. And there stands Captain James T. Kirk, good as new.
Just to mention, though, Nurse Chapel was just kind of very robotic in the previous scenes, and I didn't put it together, but just want to mention that Nurse Chapel is kind of acting very stoic.
Yes.
And then Kirk is like, yeah, I'm fine, Bones.
McCoy is obviously delighted to see this. And he turns to Pulaski and goes, Delasa, you in there? Anybody home? And she's like, nope, just crotchety old Pulaski in here. Delasa is back with Sargon now. So is she in the computer too, or is she back in an orb? Where are these people?
I guess they're in the computer. They're both sharing the computer because the computer is big enough for two. I don't know. I really don't know. But then we see the balls have been blackened and burnt basically to a crisp. And so that means they have nowhere to go. Their brain or mind or whatever essence of their mind is nowhere to go.
And McCoy's like, shit, Spock was in one of those. This was really touching. For all of his racist ranting and their arguing and bickering, like every once in a while, they'll let McCoy let go some feelings about Spock.
Yeah. I don't doubt that he cares for Spock at all. I just have an issue with how he goes about the joking and ribbing and giving him a hard time. It's just, But I know they both care about each other.
Mm-hmm. So, admittedly, I got really fucking high last night and took a 14-hour break at this point in the episode. But Kirk says it was necessary. Necessary to destroy the orbs? Is this the real Kirk? I was so confused about this.
I don't know if he knows the plan or... No, he doesn't know the plan because Sargon left his body, so I don't fucking know why he said that.
Yeah, I don't get it. And I thought it was just because I was high, but I'm glad to know that it's not just that.
But I still think he knows because he says, McCoy's like, why was it necessary? There's no Spock to return to his body, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So you've killed a loyal officer, your best friend. And Kirk says, Bones, prepare a hypo. Your fastest, deadliest poison to Vulcans. Spock's consciousness is gone. We must kill his body, the thing in it.
So he tells McCoy to prep a hypo spray with whatever is deadliest to Vulcans. And McCoy's like, funny story, Jim. I actually keep one of those prepared at all times. And then the camera cuts over to a box on the wall with a hypo spray behind glass, and the lettering on the glass reads, break glass in case of Spock.
Oh my God.
Smash cut. This was a hard transition.
Yeah. He went full villain. Spock went full villain. McCoy is screaming. I don't know what he's doing to her. Is he doing something to her brain?
Yeah, something that is causing her pain, yeah. So Spock is standing next to Uhura, and then he walks down to sit in the big chair where Chapel is standing, again, looking very robot-like.
Mm-hmm.
Her posture is all stiff, and she's not really making eye contact. And as Spock sits down, Sulu's back. Sulu turns around like he's about to make a move. But Spock's like,
must I make an example of you two, Helm? It's bad enough you were off making some movie and missed the last 9 episodes of Star Trek, the original series.
McCoy to the bridge.
And they step off the turbo lift, and Spock speaks pain into Kirk and Pulaski. And as McCoy runs around behind Spock with a hypo, Spock's like, and to demonstrate some power,
don't you know
he tells
I've
Chapel
already read every
to
thought
take the
of every
hypo
mind
from
around
McCoy
me
and inject him with it instead. So she goes over to McCoy and she puts the hypo up against his arm. But at the last minute, she turns and injects it into Spock instead, and he bolts upright. But he starts laughing like, remember that bag of tricks that Sargon has that
I'll
nobody
simply
else
transfer
knows
into
about?
another body.
Apparently,
Duh.
one of them is being able to prevent his companions from body swapping.
Spock is like, and then he falls to the floor. And I guess Spock is gone.
No,
Oh my God! They've killed
Fuck.
you, bastards!
Because Kirk is like, no, my friend Spock. If only there'd been another way. Because he's thinking he gave the order to prepare this serum to kill Spock. Sargon's voice comes over the loudspeaker, and he's like, and the lights go off, and
I could not allow.
And just
your
like at the very
sacrifice of
same
one so
moment,
close to you.
Chapel kind of wavers a little bit, and then Spock pops up off the floor.
Sargon's voice booms into the room again, and he says, this lighting effect
Jim, this
was
is
really
Star
fun.
Trek. Nobody's
It
ever
shows
really
us
dead,
that
are
Spock's
they?
katra was in Chapel all along,
Mhm.
right? So this lighting special is kind of like a blue kind of glow that comes across them to show that they're body swapping. And then as the light fades on Chapel, she sort of sways a bit and then regains her composure and says, God, Spock, when I said I wanted you inside me, I had no idea.
Oh my.
I know, right? Jesus Christ.
Spock stands up, good as new. And McCoy's like, no way, I killed you. I totally killed you. But Sargon explains he made McCoy believe that to be true. so that when Enoch read his thoughts, he would believe it true also. But apparently it was only enough to cause unconsciousness. Sargon explains that Enoch did believe it and fled Spock's body, so he's dead for real now.
Oh my God! They've killed
Enoch.
You bastards!
Kirk turns to Spock and says, I saw your orb destroyed, so where was your katra? And Spock says, in the place Enoch would least suspect. And everyone turns to look at Chapel. And she explains that's why she was summoned into sickbay earlier. She says, Mr. Spock's consciousness was placed in me. We shared consciousness together. Majel played this whole thing so well.
I think so too.
All of it. The robot-like posture thing, and then this part where she's like very pleased with the extremely intimate experience that she just had with Spock.
I know, right? And I didn't get it at the time. With her being so robotic, I just thought one of them had inhabited her. One of the three had inhabited her. I just didn't even dawn on me about Spock.
No, it didn't either.
Good job, writers.
Sargon's voice explains that they now understand that they cannot permit themselves to exist in this world. He says, and Kirk's like, surely there's something we can do to help you.
And I must
one
now
also
also
depart
depart into
maybe?
oblivion.
Can I borrow your body just, one more time?
I mean, maybe fuck around a little bit, if that's
Please?
okay.
Right?
And Kirk and Pulaski agree to this. So Kirk and Pulaski walk over to the upper deck by the science station, and that lighting special triggers again. Pulaski and Sarkirk have a final moment together in real bodies. They promise each other they'll be together forever in oblivion. They kiss again, and while they're kissing, the lighting special hits again. This was a choice. So they leave Kirk and Pulaski's bodies mid-kiss, leaving Kirk and Pulaski in the middle of a very awkward moment.
Right. They're basically breaking Starfleet rules of fraternizing, but they don't even realize it. So again, I feel like they definitely took advantage of their bodies.
Yeah.
But Kirk and Dr. Pulaski are fine with it. They were happy to cooperate.
This is very flirty, this awkward, flirty conversation. Because Kirk's like, well, I'm sure Sargon appreciated your cooperation, Dr. Pulaski. And she's like, yes, well, I was happy to cooperate, Captain. Like, they're both saying that their consciousness was there the entire time and they enjoyed it also, in a way, as Kirk and Pulaski. That led me down a rabbit trail of, that doesn't make sense. Because so far in this episode, they'd had to remove a consciousness in order to put one in.
True.
So can two consciousnesses be in one brain at the same time or not?
Apparently so, because there was no warp for them to put Kirk or Dr. Pulaski in.
And the same thing as Chapel having Spock's katra, right? The rules at the beginning of this episode have us believing they would have had to vacate Chapel's katra in order to put in Spock's. But now we're not. Now that doesn't matter. Now we can stick two in there at the same time.
Apparently. She can take two.
Oh my.
I mean, yeah.
If you get with a Klingon, you do. Okay.
A Klingon or a Vulcan?
They have two penises, Klingons.
Really? What?
Yeah.
How did I not know? Is this true?
Go back and watch Discovery. There's an episode where the Klingons on the planet or whatever, and it's like in the projects, and he whips it out to pee on the side of the road. And all you see is in shadow, but there's two streams.
Is it really in Discovery?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Why did I not know this?
Your Google search history is now going to have the phrase, do Klingons actually have two penises?
You're going to screenshot it and send it to you.
Please do.
Oh my God.
The end of our episode is Chapel saying, it was beautiful, as she flashes a smile towards Spock. Off we go to the next adventure.
Boy, I'm sure glad that's over with.
I'm happy the affair is over.
Me too.
A most annoying, emotional episode.
Yeah, but I learned something today.
When dreams become more important than reality, you give up travel, building, creating.
One jealous god, if all this makes a god.
By sparing your helpless enemy, who surely would have destroyed you, you demonstrated the advanced trait of mercy.
Frankly, I was rather dismayed by your use of the term half-breed. You must admit, it is an unsophisticated expression.
All right, what do you got for themes?
Can we maybe talk about consent?
Yeah, yes. Please, can we talk about consent?
Like, even though these gods, or whatever they were a little more benevolent than most of the all-seeing, all-knowing, they still took some liberties.
So for me, there was the mention of, Adam and Eve or whatever. And while I'm obviously annoyed at the biblical reference whenever they use it, they talk about Adam and Eve possibly having been like the offspring planted by these god people. We talked about that with Roddenberry at the end of season 1. Like the idea of what we think of as gods might have been alien visitors, right? More fiction than science, but it's an interesting thought. And I think this is too, if the idea that, that planets were seeded by another alien race. And I want to say we revisit this in The Next Generation with an alien race that has like common ancestral DNA with a whole bunch of different species.
And not just Star Trek, though. This theme is in other sci-fi series. And I know I've said this before. This is why I love the show Ancient Aliens, because they always... I know everybody hates Ancient Aliens. The show is ridiculous. But the whole premise of the show is to present another theory of how we got here.
Right.
And it always ends up being, it was aliens. So I appreciate that they were thinking back then, maybe that there is another explanation for how we could have gotten here. So yeah.
My final theme is this episode is a lot about physical connection. Becca and I have talked about this recently. Like, there's some studies that show that humans need a certain amount of physical contact with other humans for our health and happiness. Like hugs, holding hands, kisses, sex, all of that kind of stuff contributes to that need for physical touch. And so here we have a race of aliens who have been for 500,000 years unable to experience that physical touch that was probably a crucial cornerstone of themselves too.
And it was kind of like a drug to them. It felt so good to the point where Pulaski wasn't going to give it up.
Yeah.
But I guess, I'm not a doctor. What am I, a doctor? I'm not a therapist either, but I suppose there is the importance of that physical connection.
My final thought here is Enoch is kind of an incel, isn't he? He needs this physical touch so badly that he was prepared to kill to have it.
Yeah, I agree. But you always have to have your evil god.
Right.
Anytime you have someone or something with so much power, there's always that risk that they're going to use it in a negative way.
Yep. And we've seen that demonstrated on this show time and time again.
Yeah. So remember that thing that Sargon said in the beginning, and you said you understand it at the end?
Kirk had said the planet is dead. There's no possibility of life as we understand life. So this is a direct response to the life as you understand it sort of thing. He says, and I am as dead as my planet. Does that frighten you, James Kirk? For if it does, if you let what is left of me perish, then all of you, my children, all of mankind must perish too. And this to me was like communicating a broader connection between them. The whole, you're possibly our seedlings thing. I don't know if that explains it.
So if you're killing us, then you're killing yourselves too.
Yeah.
But they ended up sending themselves into oblivion, which I'm assuming is kind of like suicide. So I don't think I quite understood. Still, it's not clear to me.
All right. Well, now then it's time to honor the dead.
Were they really alive? They didn't have a body. So Sargon, Thalassa, and Enoch.
It's dead, Jim.
We are assembled here today to pay final respects to our honored dead.
Sargon, a powerful mind and 500,000 years old, being stuck in a sphere had taken its toll. He snatched Kirk's body and struck a deal with the crew. He would use Kirk's body until they could build him anew. His beloved Thalassa and his old pal Hinoch awaited android bodies and inhabited Dr. Pulaski and Spock. Hinoch had other plans and tried to kill Kirk, always lurking in the doorways with that silly smirk. Sargon and Thalassa outsmarted him and ruined his plan, and Hinoch perished by Sargon's virtual hand. Sargon and Thalassa shared one last kiss in their human body, went into oblivion or somewhere. We don't know. That ending was shoddy.
I agree.
I was not satisfied, but whatever. There's a lot of unanswered questions.
There are.
Let's get right to business.
Fine, I'm authorized to pay an equitable price. Federation has invested a great deal of money in our training. They're about due for a small return.
Listen, we pay off percentages. We're entitled to a little service for our money, huh?
Is this the way your citizens do business? Their right of petition?
They pay their percentages and the boss takes care of them.
Is there anything else?
Thank you, patrons.
Thank you, patrons. There are a lot of great ways to help support us here. One of the free ways to do that, of course, is to leave a review. You can also rate our show, tell your friends about it. One of the best ways, of course, to support us, though, is to give us some of your Gold Press Latinum by becoming a patron of the show. We want to thank all of our patrons, but we want to thank our founding admirals. Special thanks to Russell, Allie, Peter, and Sarah. Thank you, everybody, for supporting the show. Thanks, patrons.
Thanks, guys.
Patrons get early access to every episode, merch at various levels. There are some patron-only content available. There's some before the show, behind-the-scenes banter for patrons only as well. So head on over to patreon.com/Humanist Trek and pledge as little as $3 a month. It really does make a big difference, and we appreciate all of you so much.
I assume you're loitering around here to learn what efficiency rating I plan to give your cadets. Trainees, to the briefing room. Is that all you gotta say? What about my performance? Aren't you dead?
I don't believe this was a fair test of my command abilities. There was no way to win.
There's no correct resolution. It's a test of character.
Now, what is that supposed to mean?
I am understandably curious.
May I ask you a question?
Who's been holding up the damn elevator?
All right, let's bring Academy instructor Becca back in for the exciting answer to last week's Starfleet Academy Cadet Challenge. We're failing the Academy, Allie.
I know.
You're not going to get your wings.
We're going to end up vacuuming the bridge.
You're not even going to be allowed on a starship.
That's true. Wow.
All right, last time on Humanist Trek, you asked us.
At the end of this episode, Kirk says, "I promise." William Shatner used the same line as a pitchman for what product in the 1970s?
I think I know this now because I didn't know it. I guessed wrong, and then I was like, fuck, I went and looked it up, and now I forgot what the real answer was.
Where does he say?
Oh, he doesn't say "I promise," does he?
I promise.
Promise we'll be together before they went into oblivion.
Yeah. I promise. Yeah, promise we'll be together. I promise. Yeah. And we both said insurance.
It wasn't that, though, I know.
Okay, what was it?
It was promise margarine.
Incorrect.
I sent you the YouTube video I could find.
Never fucking heard of this.
Of the commercial. It's actually really funny.
Never heard of the commercial. I've heard of the margarine. Because, margarine, that was huge back when we were growing up. Everybody used margarine instead of butter because butter was expensive.
Butter. Porky.
Butter.
Okay.
Butter.
Cholesterol levels of many Americans are too high, but for a group of people in New Jersey, cholesterol went down. They joined in a total dietary program to reduce cholesterol. Less fats, lean meats, egg and cheese substitutes, and highly polyunsaturated foods, including Promise margarine. Promise is highly polyunsaturated. The results? Their average cholesterol level went down. Down significantly. And Promise tastes like butter. Promise.
William Shatner.
Jesus. Okay.
He looked good. I think it's interesting he's talking about cholesterol and stuff.
Yeah. Uh-huh. Well, that was the big...
That was the push. Don't do butter. Butter is going to kill you.
But turns out that's wrong because all the trans fats and all the stuff that's in the synthetic oils is what is actually going to kill us.
All right. There you have it. Next week, we'll be reviewing Star Trek The Original Series, Season 2, Episode 21, Patterns of Force. Enterprise is sent to planet Ecos to investigate a disappearance of Federation historian John Gill. And I don't remember anything about this episode.
Nope.
Huh. All right. What's our question for Patterns of Force?
This episode was particularly difficult for much of the cast and crew to produce because of its subject matter. Why?
What was the synopsis again?
Enterprise is sent to planet Ecos to investigate a disappearance of Federation historian John Gill. So the thumbnail to this thing is what looks like a dude in iron bars in the background, and Kirk and Spock shirtless in the foreground. Spock got his clothes off, Allie. You better go.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying, I just got a thing. I got a boner for him. I don't know, man. Oh, it's all that logic.
He's a hairy dude, though.
Spock? Really? Oh, I cannot wait to see this.
Okay, so we've already had episodes about rape, and that was not a subject matter that they had a problem with.
Yeah, and you said they were in bars, or in
it looks like there's a person in bars. Oh, is it maybe like
prisoner of war?
Yeah, is it maybe like a Holocaust-y kind of thing?
That or prisoner of war because of the time it was after the Korean War and the Vietnam War. No, actually the Vietnam War hadn't started yet, right? Or no?
I'm a product of the American education system. You think I know?
No, I don't know. I know, right? I don't know either. Maybe it's either. I think you're right. Prisoner of war or Holocaust survivor.
Okay.
Thing.
All right, we'll go with that. Okay, well, we've locked in our answers then. If you want to play along, you know how to do that. No cheating, no Googling. Set a course for your nearest social media app and post this episode. Include your answer and the hashtag Starfleet Challenge. We'll pick out our favorite to read on the show. Next time on Humanist Trek, Star Trek, the original series, Season 2, Episode 21, Patterns of Force.
Live long and prosper.
Kapla!
Humanist Trek is available wherever you replicate your podcasts. Follow us on all the social medias at Humanist Trek. Become a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Trek. Open hailing frequencies to podcast@humanisttrek.com and visit our website, humanisttrek.com. Humanist Trek is a production of Sarah Austin Media.